Welcome to the Champaign-Urbana Mass Transit District, known locally as MTD. Located in central Illinois, we are the home to the University of Illinois, and we provide nearly 12 million rides every year. MTD has a fleet of 118 low-emission hybrid buses or zero-emission hydrogen fuel cell electric buses. In 2009, our Board of Trustees committed to never buying a pure diesel bus again. And since that point, we've only purchased low-emission hybrid buses. In 2021, we introduced our first hydrogen fuel cell electric zero-emission buses. When making the decision to go zero emission, we had to decide between battery electric buses or hydrogen fuel cell electric buses. And so we chose to focus on three goals. One, we wanted to reduce our reliance on fossil fuels. Two, we wanted to be zero emission, and we mean truly zero emission. That means zero emission at the vehicle, but also zero emission at the energy source that provides the fuel for the vehicle. And then third, and most important, we wanted to minimize the impact on our operations. We want to design our service for our customers' needs, not our vehicles' needs. And hydrogen fuel cell lets us do that because they have the same range as a diesel or a hybrid bus. And so the hydrogen fuel cell technology allows us to accomplish all three goals. It all starts with harvesting energy from the sun. We're here at MTD's solar array. Our neighbors across the street at the Urbana-Champaign Sanitary District had 8 acres available for a long-term lease. So with state funding, we were able to install a 5,500 panel, 2 megawatt solar array. That solar array produces enough energy for our hydrogen production. And in fact, any extra energy produced goes into the grid and MTD gets a credit for that. The solar panel array is directly connected to the hydrogen production station.
Welcome to the Champaign-Urbana Mass Transit District's hydrogen fuel cell production station. Here we have solar power coming in, which powers our electrolyzer, which creates hydrogen fuel for our hydrogen fuel cell electric buses. It does this by taking water and turning it into hydrogen. There are 5 main components to our station. Number 1 is the solar power coming in. Then there's the electrolysis. Then we have cooling, compression, and finally the storage vessels. Let's take a closer look inside. The solar power comes in and starts here at the switchgear. After that, it's transferred over here to the transformer, which will step up or step down the power as needed to run the electrolyzer. We also have a backup plan in place so that if there were a power outage, we have a generator. This generator is capable of running the entire station minus the electrolyzer. So in the event of a power outage, we're still able to store and fuel the buses. Just like the generator we spoke about earlier, we have more redundancy built in here. This emergency stanchion was put in place to give us the ability to have hydrogen fuel trucked in and stored in our storage vessels. That way, in the event of a power outage, we're still able to store the fuel and continue operation of our buses. This container houses all of the electrical components and controls for our electrolyzer, which is right beside it. Next, we're going to walk over and take a look at the water portion, and here is where the water, utility water, comes in for the electrolyzer. It does go through an RODI process, which will pull out any minerals, impurities, so that the water going into the electrolyzer is in its purest form. You'll notice that it's pretty similar to like an at-home system that you have, just on a little bit larger scale. And here we have the electrolyzer. As you recall, the solar power comes in, the RODI water comes in, and this is where they meet. The electrolyzer goes through a process where it splits that water molecule apart. And as you know, water is H2O. So when they get split, that hydrogen is what goes on to the next portion of our station to be utilized as fuel. The oxygen that gets separated out in the process gets vented off into the atmosphere. The next phase in our process is the cooling of the hydrogen, which you can see happens right here. After that, cooling is one of the most important steps, is the compression. The compression has to happen because it gives us the ability to store more hydrogen. The molecules come out and they're spread far apart. As we go through the compression phase, it pushes those molecules closer together, giving us the ability to keep a lot of hydrogen in a small footprint. And here's the final stage of our hydrogen production station, and it's storage. In storage, we have a total of 27 vessels, which can hold approximately 1,000 kilograms of hydrogen fuel stored at 450 bar. If you recall from earlier, the electrolyzer produces about 420 kilograms per day of hydrogen fuel. So it would take about 2.5 days of solid running to completely fill our storage tanks. Once the storage tanks are completely full, if we had to cease production, we would still be able to operate our buses for approximately 20 days. Now, let's take a look at how we fuel our hydrogen buses.
We're here at the fueling station at Champaign-Urbana Mass Transit District, where we can fuel our entire fleet, consisting of our diesel electric hybrid buses, as well as our hydrogen fuel cell buses. From the production station, the hydrogen is piped underground nearly 125 feet over to the fuel station. We have a chiller here that cools down the hydrogen and allows for rapid fueling at 380 bar. Our hydrogen buses are fueled in a similar manner to the rest of our fleet. We added hydrogen dispensers next to our diesel dispensers so that all of our returning fleet can be fueled in the same fuel station. It only takes a few minutes to fuel our hydrogen fuel cell buses, which is comparable to our diesel electric hybrid buses of the same size.
Welcome to MTD's maintenance facility in Urbana, Illinois, where we service and store all of our fleet. Let's take a tour of the facility to see all the modifications we made to accept hydrogen technology to MTD. Most of the modifications that we've made to our facility are centered around preventative safety measures. These here are controllers that monitor all 57 sensors around our facility in case of a hydrogen leak. In the event of a hydrogen leak, the monitoring system will kick on these variable speed drive controllers, and the makeup air units will kick to 100% to make sure that the affected area is properly ventilated. As you can see down below, this is one of our hydrogen buses. The hydrogen is actually stored on top of the buses in tanks. In the event of a leak, the hydrogen is lighter than air, so it's going to raise to the ceiling. To mitigate fire hazards, we've lowered all the electrical down 18 inches from the ceiling. Another one of the facility modifications we made to accept hydrogen into our facility were separation walls. This is one of the separation walls that helps us separate the main work area from the storage areas. If you look above me is one of the hydrogen sensors. These hydrogen sensors are NFPA 2 and NFPA 30A compliant. Another benefit of these separation walls is to isolate our major work areas from electrical equipment like these inverters for our rooftop solar array. Not only do these modifications keep our employees, our fleet, and our facility safe, it's also in compliance with compressed natural gas technology. This gives us the opportunity to expand to CNG buses in the future.
This is the Champaign-Urbana Mass Transit District's hydrogen fuel cell 60-foot articulated bus. We took delivery of 2 of these in May of 2020. We were also the very first district to ever order and receive 2 of these vehicles. With this being a hydrogen fuel cell vehicle, it emits 0 emissions into the atmosphere. This vehicle is very unique. It's like a regular electric bus, only this has an en route battery charger, which is the hydrogen fuel cell. Let's go take a closer look. Okay, unlike a regular combustion engine, a fuel cell bus has a fuel cell and no internal combustion engine, no belts, just a fuel cell. And this is our Ballard HD85 fuel cell. It has a air kit on top and a cooling kit on top. And the way that you are able to achieve electricity out of this is you have a gas, which is hydrogen, you force it through the fuel cell, and then you add the pressurized oxygen through the fuel cell, and it runs through a membrane, and you get a positive and a negative charge out of that fuel cell, and that's how you charge your internal batteries in the vehicle. We store our hydrogen in 9 tanks on the roof of the vehicle. It has 4 in the front, 5 in the rear. Those tanks hold 65 kilograms of hydrogen, which is 14 times lighter than air and will rise at 45 miles per hour. Those tanks being full of hydrogen can allow the vehicle to be out for 250 miles a day before it has to be refueled.
This isn't just some empty lot in Urbana. This is our training lot where we train new employees to be operators with skills and techniques to drive on our streets. One difference in training someone on a hydrogen fuel cell bus is the regenerative brake. On a standard bus, standard diesel or hybrid, the regenerative brake activates when you take your foot off the accelerator. When it activates, it helps reduce the bus's speed. However, on a hydrogen fuel cell bus, not only does the regenerative brake help the bus slow down, but it also helps generate electricity that's returned to the battery. The more use we get out of the regenerative brake, the more electricity that is returned to the battery and helps extend the range of the vehicle. Another thing that we need to train our operators on when training on an articulated hydrogen fuel cell bus is the obstructed view caused by the battery compartments. As you can see, you can't see much of what's going on behind me. To compensate for that, to see the back half of our articulated bus, we've installed cameras that allows the operator to see everything that's going on back here from the convenience of their dashboard. Whenever we introduce a new piece of equipment to our fleet, safety and training spends a lot of time with the manufacturer and the bus to learn all of the new features that we need to train our employees on. This includes orientation to the vehicle as well as time behind the wheel to see how it drives. With the hydrogen fuel cell electric bus, we determined that it only requires an hour of training. With just over 200 operators, it took us about 3 months to get everyone trained on our hydrogen fuel cell buses. We were able to accomplish that by having members of our training team meet operators en route, relieve them, and then begin that 1 hour training. Upon completion of the training, we would return them to the bus and move on to our next operator. Now, had this been battery electric, I'm not sure we would have been able to get all those operators trained in that 3-month period because the bus would constantly have to be returning on site to be recharged. We expected there to be a learning curve, but generally, we've received positive feedback from our operators and we can't wait to expand our hydrogen fuel cell fleet.
Every bus needs to be flexible enough to go out at any time on any route. That's hydrogen buses included. So if we were running off of battery-powered buses, we wouldn't be able to have that much flexibility. A hydrogen bus runs just the same as any other bus. If it was parked in the front of storage, I can place it on any route, just as I would any other coach.
This is the control center of the Champaign-Urbana Mass Transit District. This is where we help out with capacity issues and monitor the service for any late buses or full buses that need backups. We also help with any issues such as lost items and any operators that need a supervisor dispatched to them. We provide a dynamic service for the University of Illinois and the school districts and the general community, and oftentimes there's very heavy loads that we need buses to help alleviate the demand for. So having the flexibility to use any bus across the district at any time is very important. We use articulated buses throughout campus and also for school routes, and oftentimes for backups for crushed loads. And it's important for us to be able to use a bus at any point. So we chose a hydrogen fuel cell bus over a battery electric bus because it's got the range to stay out all day. We utilize show operators at the drop of a hat. Sometimes they are answering phones, and sometimes they need to be sent out to do a backup at any moment. So we want to have a bus that's ready to go and fully operational, whether it needs to stay out for an hour or all day.
2101, go ahead.
2101, I will need you to code 8 bus 2103 at ISR at their relief time, please.
10-4 or 19 ISR, how about 2103? 10-4. MTD runs on a schedule, so for MTD, time is very important to us. We have people that are going to school, going to doctors, going to see their kids, what have you. They have appointments, they have their needs, and it's very important for us to make sure that they can get to their place on time. So we strive to be on time, and that's why we have show-up operators to help fill the gaps if a bus is low on time or there's so many people on the bus that we could help alleviate that capacity load. I definitely look forward to driving the hydrogen bus. It's different. You don't really get to drive the bus often because we have a limited number of buses. So every time I get the opportunity, I'm definitely excited to have the different driving experience. I love how quiet the bus is going throughout the streets. The ride is definitely smoother. I can go over potholes, bumps, and barely feel it. The acceleration is definitely nice. I can go from a stop and actually accelerate a lot faster than a normal bus does, which is surprising seeing it's a 60-foot bus.
Some may be concerned about safety, but when used properly, hydrogen is safe. Like gasoline or diesel, there are inherent risks with using a flammable gas or liquid fuel, but in many ways, hydrogen is safer. Hydrogen fuel cell buses perfectly align with MTD's efforts for environmental sustainability. Hydrogen fuel cell buses are the closest thing to a one-for-one replacement for diesel and hybrid buses. We've committed to zero-emission technology because for many reasons it's right for MTD. We also believe that hydrogen fuel cells are the way of the future. MTD may be one of the first transit systems to deploy this technology, but there's still a long journey ahead of us, and we can take it together.